Hello students, so far we have been discussing about Bohr atom model, and let us have a quick look into the model. So we have studied that uh, Bohr proposed electrons will be revolving in some stationary orbits which are circular in nature around the nucleus, and once it is in stationary orbit, no radiation or emission is observed, and an emission and absorption is observed when an electron jumps from a higher orbit of higher energy to a low orbit of low energy, or when it absorbs energy, it will jump from lower orbit to the higher orbit. Then only a radiation or a spectral line will be observed. So these were the basic concepts, and using this concept he has explained hydrogen spectrum very well, that is Lyman series, Balmer series, which is the visible spectral lines, H alpha, H beta, H gamma, H delta, and then in infrared series, Paschen series, bracket series, and Fun series using this concept. And he proposed an equation which is well in match with the Rydberg's empirical formula. But there were some failures in his model. Uh, each H alpha, H beta, H gamma, and H delta, which were seen in the visible light, visible spectrum, visible region of the spectrum, were seen to consist of many number of lines, closely packed lines, and those closely packed lines are called fine structure of spectral lines. So these were not a single sharp line, but they each of them will split up into several, each of these lines will split up into several closely packed lines. So why are they splitting up into different lines was not explained by Bohr. Bohr explained them as a single line corresponding to H alpha, then another line H beta, another line H gamma, and another line H delta. He could not explain why there are a number of lines in H alpha, similarly in other spectral line also. So that was the failure involved in Bohr atom model. So it was Arnold Sommerfeld who tried to modify Bohr atom model. He is a famous theoretical physicist. He is the man. He is from Russia, and he is the person who thought about involvement or importance of mathematics in physics. He used to consider or he used to say that three things for which are important for a physicist. One thing is, first thing is to study mathematics, and second is to study more mathematics, and third is to do the same more and more. Okay, so I think you are the right person to study the physics as mathematicians. So he proposed a mathematical rule which is called condensation, general condensation rule in periodical motions. That is, for any system in which the coordinates are periodic functions of time. What do you mean by periodic functions of time? Those coordinates will be repeating over and over again. Okay, as the motion proceeds, it will be repeating over and over. For example, if you consider a circular motion, what is repeating over and over again? What is repeating? Yeah, that is, you can see that the angle, it starts from 0 angle, then it moves upward to 90 degree, then covers 180 degree, then it will come back to 360 degree, right? So the angle is going on changing once it execute a complete periodic motion and one period, and for the next period it will be doing the same kind of repetition. Okay, so in that case, for a circle it is angle, for an ellipse you have a variation in radius also, right? Radial vector is also different. So there you have two periodical coordinates, that is radial vector as well as the angle. Okay, so for any system which consists of coordinates which are periodic functions of time, there exists a condition, that is not all the coordinates are possible. The momentum corresponding to that coordinate q, the total momentum will be equal to some integer multiple of Planck's constant h. This was actually given by Bohr also. Hope you remember that Bohr also considered that as the electron orbits in its orbit around the nucleus, the angular momentum, orbital angular momentum, was considered to be an integer multiple of h cut the h by 2 pi. Why 2 pi is coming up? Here is a integrating over the all orbits. So 1 by 2 pi will come up in the RHS. Okay, so anyway, the general condensation rule to be considered for all the system is that if there is any periodic coordinate q, then corresponding momentum coordinate will be equal to integer number. That integer is called quantum number times Planck's constant h. So he considered, he proposed along with William, he proposed Wilson. So he proposed this general condensation rule. And how do we modify Bohr atom model? Why do you want to modify it? We want to explain the fine structure of spectral line. Why each spectral line split up into different lines again. So in 1915 he modified this by considering the idea of elliptical orbits. So he proposed that electrons move around the nucleus in an ellipse. Okay, while Bohr considered it as a circular orbit, Sommerfeld proposed that it must be a ellipse, while circle is just a special case of elliptical orbit. And also the nucleus will be at not at the center but at the focal point. That is, you know, ellipse has two focal points nearer to its edges. So instead of here, it would be like here, or it will be closer to here. So those are the focal points. Okay. And the position of electron with respect to the nucleus, as we have mentioned earlier, an ellipse will have two periodic constants, coordinates, that are radial vector as well as the angle. Let us see, let us watch it. That is for a nucleus, for an electron revolving around the nucleus. Here you can see, so the electron keep on varying and the angle is given by phi. So that phi is called the azimuthal angle. So hope you are familiar with that concept. So here you can see that the radial vector is also going on changing as well as the angle, and the angle is given by azimuthal angle. So we'll be making use of that concept over here. So we have two coordinates r and phi. So these are periodical. As the electron goes around the nucleus, the r, that is the distance from the nucleus, as well as the angle will keep on changing periodically. So the momentum, so according to the general condensation rule, we can apply the condensation for the momentum corresponding to r and phi. So we would obtain integral p phi d phi will be equal to n phi h, where n phi is the quantum number associated with the angle phi, and hence it is called azimuthal quantum number. And for r, you have the condensation rule as integral pr dr is equal to nrh, where nr is the quantum number related to the radial vector, and hence the name radial quantum number. So these two are the equations to quantization rules to be considered when we consider an electron to be moving around a elliptical orbit. So the allowed, so quantization implies that not all the orbits are possible, certain allowed orbits are there. So from these two also it is seen that these quantum numbers are always positive integers, and they are related to the principal quantum number. Principal quantum number means what is the orbit, ഏത് ഓർബിറ്റിലാണ് നല്ല മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്യുന്നതാണ് first orbit, second orbit. So that is given by n. N was already been given by Bohr, right? So it is related to n as n5 plus nr will be equal to n. And by solving these two equations, we'll get to know which are the allowed orbits possible for an electron to revolve around the nucleus. So that is what mentioned by Bohr also. Bohr considered it in terms of principal quantum number, while Sommerfeld is considering in terms of two quantum numbers, that is n5 and nr, in particular n5. So it is seen that for an ellipse, solving this equation, you can see that 1 minus e square is equal to n phi square by n square, where e is called the eccentricity of the ellipse, that is how much elliptical it would be, will be given by e. So this is these n phi and n are related to eccentricity, and it is also seen that it is equal to b square by a square, where b is the semi-minor axis and a is the semi-major axis. That is, if you consider an ellipse, you have a minor axis as well as a major axis. So this much portion is what you call semi-minor axis, which is b, and half of major axis is what we call it as semi-major axis, which is a. Okay, so you have b and a here. So they are also related to the eccentricity as 1 minus e square equal to b square by a square. So looking at these two equations, you can see that b square by a square is equal to n phi square by n square, or b by a is equal to n phi by n. So we have a lot more equations to be considered for allowed orbits. The first equation is that 1 minus e square is equal to n phi square by n square, and n phi by n, that is a ratio of azimuthal quantum number to the principal quantum number, must be equal to the ratio of semi-minor to the semi-major, which is again an integer. This must be an integer. So considering those equations, so these are the equations to be considered. Let us see what are the possible values of a n phi. So first thing inferred from this equation is that n phi can be equal to n. Okay, when it is equal to n, then when n phi is equal to n, you can see that b will be equal to a. If b equal to a, then, or n phi is equal to n, it implies that e is equal to 0. This is already 1. So if n phi by n are the same, this will be 1. So what will be value of e? E would be 0. So eccentricity will be 0 for a circular orbit. Okay, so whenever the value of azimuthal quantum number is same as the principal quantum number, the orbit would be circular. That is what we obtain in the case of Bohr orbit. So it need not be always the same. Always it need not be having the same value as principal quantum number. But whether, let us check whether n phi can take 0 value, whether it can take 0 value. If it goes to 0, what happens here? This term will be 0. So what will be E from here? E will be equal to 1. If E is equal to 1, that corresponds to a straight line passing through the nucleus. Whether the electron can pass through the nucleus? No. So, it is not possible for an azimuthal quantum number to have a value 0. Okay, so 0 is not there. So, which are the possible value? Any of the integers like 1, 2, 3, etc. Now, let us see whether n phi can be greater than n. Okay, n phi cannot be greater than n. Why? N phi is taken as a ratio of semi-minor to semi-major. Okay, that means B is always less than A, which implies n phi must be less than n. Okay, so which are the possible values you considering this equation? For any given value of n phi can take only integer values. And which are those values? Those values are limited by up to n. That is, if n is equal to 4, n phi can take only 1, 2, 3 up to 4. Okay, so each value of n phi corresponds to different elliptical orbits with different eccentricity. Okay, so let us check Sommerfeld orbit for n is equal to 1. For n is equal to 1, there is only one azimuthal quantum number, n phi is equal to 1. And when both of them are equal, what would be the orbit? It would be a circular orbit like this. And here you can see the nucleus at the center of the circular orbit. Now let us consider n equal to 2. So n equal to 2, n phi can have two values. N phi is equal to 1 and n phi is equal to 2, isn't it? So which are those? When n is equal to 2 and n phi is equal to 2, when both of them are equal, you will get circular orbit. So you have circular orbit for n phi is equal to 2. And what would be for n phi is equal to 1? It would be a elliptical orbit with nucleus at one of the focal, center lalla at the focal point. Next, similarly we can consider n is equal to 3, where n phi is having values 1, 2 and 3. So which would be the circular one? N phi is equal to 3, which is same as n equal to 3. Will give a circular orbit, and n phi is equal to 2 will be an elliptical orbit, and n phi is equal to 1 will be more elliptical than the n phi is equal to 2. Okay, I hope it is clear. So these are the Sommerfeld orbits. So here you can see, if you consider these orbits, electron is seen to be moving with different velocity along the orbits, isn't it? So when they are farther, they have very small velocity. As they approaches closer to the nucleus, here you can see that it is having very high velocity. Okay, so that is what is proposed by Sommerfeld in its second postulate, relativistic variation of mass. So how it is relativistically varying? Because the velocity of electron moving in an elliptical orbit varies or differs considerably at different points of the orbit. Oro pointilum oro velocity aayirikkum, and maximum occurs near to the nucleus, and that is corresponding to a value of 1 by 137 of velocity of light in vacuum. So whenever the velocity of a body of an object is comparable, closer to the velocity of light in vacuum, then you can consider that object to be moving at a relativistic speed. Okay, that is what you mean by relativistic. Whenever the velocity of an object is comparable or closer to the velocity of light in vacuum, then such a body is said to be relativistic. So in this case, electron is a relativistic object. So what is special about relativistic? According to theory of relativity, whenever there is a variation of velocity, there will be variation of mass, and variation of mass will lead to a precessing of ellipse. That means ഒരു സിംഗിൾ എലിപ്സ് ആയിട്ടല്ല എക്സിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുക. The orbit itself will be moving along. Okay, here you can see. Here you can see first it was in this horizontal way. Now the orbit started moving. Okay, as the electron orbits, the orbit is also getting precessed. Okay, that is called Rosette ellipse or precessing. Okay, so finally we expected it would have a single orbit as given by Bohr, but Sommerfeld explained that because the velocity is varying, the orbit is also seen to precess. Precess ചെയ്യാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മളൊരു പമ്പരം കറയ്ക്കുമ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ tip will be going on rotating, right? Moving around, right? Similarly, ellipse will be rotating or moving, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ rotating എന്ന് പകരം precessing എന്നാണ് correct word. Okay, so we'll end up with this. So hope you have understood Sommerfeld atom model, and we'll discuss more about this in our next class.